Up until now, your code has typically executed in a perfect environment. However, in software development, unexpected issues occur, such as trying to use a system tool that doesn't exist or evaluating bad data. When JavaScript encounters an unhandled problem, it throws a fatal error, instantly crashes the program, and refuses to run any remaining code below it. To prevent these total program shutdowns, you can build a structural safety net using 3 connected code blocks: try, catch, and finally. We have a single variable declared here, is backup generator online, and it's set to false. Now we have a log entering system check and another line of code that's trying to log a variable that doesn't exist. If you've made this mistake before, you already know what's going to happen, but let's run it. And we get a reference error. Is cargo bay pressurized is not defined. So how can we ensure that even if a mistake like this happens, the program won't crash? That's where try, catch, and finally come in. We're going to look at these one at a time, but I want to show you how to set them up because they all go together. You start with the keyword try, create a new block, and then you catch and open up parentheses so that you can actually access the error object that's created if an error happens. So we'll call this errorObj for error object, and then I open another block. Now this alone is enough to work properly. These always have to be used in conjunction with one another, but we are going to look at one more, which is finally. And all 3 of these together are going to give us some really good control over the flow of our code, just in case an exception is thrown. So inside our try block, we have instructions here to move these 3 console log statements inside of it. Let me move those down. And we can get rid of that line. So now the same code we were trying to run outside of this, we're going to put in the try block. And what's going to happen is when this causes an exception, because there's still a reference error, this doesn't exist, but this time it's not going to crash our program, and instead it's going to produce an error object. Let's go ahead and run it so that we can show that this line will run, this one will attempt to run, and as soon as the exception is thrown, this line will never run, but it won't crash our program. Okay, so we see entering system check, and we see success. The script did not crash and is still running, and that's something that is down here at the very bottom of all of our code. So that tells us that it got past this error. It didn't bother doing this because the exception happened here, but then it kept going. And right now we don't have anything in catch or finally, so it just went straight to here. So that's enough to prevent the program from crashing, but true exception handling means that you capture your error object and you do something with it. So let's just log a quick message, critical fault detected, sensors offline. And we'll log a second message, error details. And then I'm going to go to the object, and I'm going to use dot notation, which is something you're going to learn about when you learn about objects. But there is a message stored as part of this object, and we can access it just by doing dot message, and then it will include this as part of our log. So let's run it again now. Okay, so we see entering system check, and then critical fault detected, sensors offline, error details. And then this is the simplified message from the error object that JavaScript created saying, is cargo bay pressurized, is not defined. So it's an easy way for you to see exactly what happened that caused an exception to be thrown. So just to review, these 2, try and catch, always need to be written in conjunction with one another. The catch block will only execute if an exception is thrown. If there had been no exception here, this entire thing would have executed, and it would have skipped the catch block. And that's where finally comes in, because you know that one of these 2 things is going to happen. Either it's going to start to do this, and then if there's an exception, it will also do this, or maybe it just finishes all of this with no exception and moves on. But if there's code that you need to make sure always runs either way, you put it in a finally block. So I'll log this, say system check complete. Closing evaluation matrix. So we have now written everything we're going to. So let me run this and we'll see how this works. So first we have our code from the try block up until an exception was thrown. Then we have the 2 lines from the catch block. And then we have the line from the finally block. And then after that, we had a line of code below all 3 of the blocks where the program just continued to run. As you are learning in these beginning stages of your coding journey, you may not find a lot of use for the try, catch, finally blocks just yet, but it's good to have a fundamental understanding of how this works now, because we are going to move into more complex topics where this will become very relevant. Let me go ahead and make a commit. Let's look at the exercise. You've got some practice here by starting with some variables, and you've got some instructions on how to use try, catch, and finally to work through this and test your code and handle exceptions so that it does not crash your program. Then you'll move to exercise 2 and do the same thing. That's all I've got. I will see you in the next one.